Hello and welcome to Confident Children. My name is Lucy Nathanson. I'm a child therapist and founder of confidentchildren.co.uk. So today we have a parent joining us to share her experience of having a child with selective mutism. Now, I know that a lot of you watching this video are parents who are going through the process of helping your child. You might be at multiple stages. Maybe you've just discovered your child has selective mutism. Maybe you discovered a while ago, you started an intervention program. So wherever you are in the process, I really hope that you'll gain some nuggets and some interesting information from this interview, because here is a parent who's actually gone through the process, still to some extent going through it, but gone through a lot of it. So 𝗓𝗂, thank you for being here on the YouTube channel. Exciting.
Yes, that's very exciting, and I actually can't believe I'm here to tell sort of a success story. Like, if you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't imagine myself being here.
I know, and you were probably on the other side of this, watching the videos at one point on this channel, and now you're actually featuring here. So cool.
Yes, it is. Yes. So
do you want to share, maybe to start, just how old is your son?
He is 6 years old, going on 7.
Great. When is he going to be 7?
In February. Yeah,
okay,
in 3 months' time.
Great. So perhaps you could just share your story. So how you found out that your child had selective mutism, how old was he at the time?
Yeah. Yes, well, so just the context, we are a Polish-English family, and we live in Luxembourg. And we sent our son when he was 4 years old to a local school where the language of tuition is Luxembourgish. We were, optimistic, thinking it's going to go well, he's going to adapt, he's going to learn a new language, it's always very good. However, after 3 months from starting, the teacher and staff in like a children's center where children go after school here, they told us that he's not talking to anyone. And then shortly after, he started speaking to some English-speaking children. However, we knew he spoke Luxembourgish fluently because he was in Luxembourgish crash. And he spoke to us at home. He was able to record a video. So we knew that language was there. That was not the main problem. Yes, so that came a little bit as a shock that adaptation was not happening. And that's how we found out there was something wrong. Someone said the word selective mutism. And from there, we started investigating a little bit until we got to a diagnosis around like 5 months later. And
so how old was he at this time?
Then he had turned 5 years old. So yes, that was the beginning. We got after a few months, we got the diagnosis and started looking for some help.
Yes, and obviously it's a bit more complicated, and because of the bilingualism, because there are actually 3 languages involved. Luxembourgish, which is the language of the school. He speaks Polish with you, and he speaks English with Dad. Yeah. So it makes it a bit more complex, but we can still work with it. It's still possible. So what did you do then after you discovered that, this is selective mutism, he got the diagnosis? What were your next steps to actually helping him?
Yes, so first step, diagnosis. Second step was to educate ourselves, myself and my husband. We started reading. The diagnosis came with a report, so we had some indication on what to read, and so we started with that. And then at some point, we discovered that there is a need to intervene at the school to prepare the environment. So at that point, we started looking for someone who could provide a training for the school staff and for the children's center staff. And that's how we found Lucy.
Yay! How did you find me, out of interest?
I think we joined lots of parent support groups, and then Confident Children came frequently recommended.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes. And from then on, so we managed to get Lucy to train the children's center and to start, and then we managed to actually get individual online sessions with Lucy. And that's when I think real work started, because my son's teacher joined us for those sessions, and we started creating plans, like strategies, small steps, small goals to achieve, and that was the beginning of the success then, I think.
Yeah, and I really like that you mentioned that it was online, because a lot of the families who contact Confident Children, and I'm sure other organisations, really feel at the beginning that they need the direct help. They need the therapist to come into the school, and we always reassure families that we can actually do a lot online, and a lot of the families we help, we've never ever met the child in real life. It's possible to help online, and you're in a completely different country, and it's he's now making progress.
Yes, Lucy, and he just reminded me something else that was very important and difficult on the way, to find a person who really knows about selective mutism. Because the moment we found out something was wrong, we thought, oh, we need a child psychologist, even before we actually identified selective mutism. And we came across a psychologist who was not maybe not that experienced with SM, maybe didn't even believe that much that SM is a thing. Oh, wow. But would more like, we had suggestions that maybe our son has got high functioning autism. So we started researching that, and it just didn't add up, because the child was completely different at home than in the school environment. So we were really confused. So, but when we found the specialist help, then it really started to adapt for us as well. We got the impression that it was the right thing.
Yes, and that's another important point for people watching this, that if you do find any special or any therapist professional, just find out what their experience is with selective mutism, because they might be highly qualified psychologists, but if they haven't got a successful track record working with children with selective mutism, they might not be able to help, even though they are very qualified and very they work with lots of different needs. Selective mutism is a bit different. You really have to have somebody who is who knows about it, because it's not as common as other conditions. Now, that's great. Okay, so what did you do? Tell us a little bit about the what you actually did in the school, children's centre, etc., to help your son.
Yes, first of all, the staff at the children's centre and at the school got a list of do's and don'ts. So just to avoid maintaining factors of selective mutism. For example, they were advised not to ask my son direct questions, which was a challenge for them, because they felt they had to. And I think it remains challenging that school until the end, because afterwards we shortly changed school. And for the teacher as well, we had lots of questions. She wasn't aware how to help. She really wanted to. So that training for staff where the selective mutism occurs was very, very important. Our first goals maybe were not to get our son to speak, but to first make sure he's feeling comfortable, to just remove this anxiety that was dominating. And then afterwards, so we started, after that training, the school accepted that we have sliding in sessions. So these were therapy sessions where I came into the school and started spending some time with my son there. First to remove the anxiety, then to make him speak to me in the school, which was not so obvious from the beginning. I discovered how hypervigilant my child was in the school setting, which was incredible. I had never realized that he could be like that. And afterwards, when we achieved communication in the school, like when he was okay to have an open door, even without anyone listening, that was already a big achievement for us.
Yeah.
And so then we started following the small steps with Lucy's advice, checking in every few weeks about the progress and about further steps and how to move on, how to make sure we are still progressing a little bit. We got to a stage where after, I think, 15 weeks of sessions twice a week, my son said his first words to his teacher.
Oh.
Yes, that was a breakthrough. It was extremely rewarding for us and for the teacher, because we need to realize that mostly teachers are really concerned as well, and they live it. You know, they really want it to work. Sometimes they feel guilty that it didn't happen for them. So that happened for us after those few good months of trying. And
right. Such a magical moment, I'm sure, for
yes.
you. All the hard work and, you know,
yeah.
no, amazing.
We went through loads of different games. I must say we loaded my son with sweet chocolates and rewards. Then we were advised by Lucy to move to stickers rather than chocolate. But the chocolate did the trick at some point as well. It had its place.
Yeah, I'd actually like to ask you about that, because there's a bit of a kind of, some people say, oh, don't reward talking, you know, it's not helpful. Other families say that it works for their child. So it will be interesting to hear, because I'm sure a lot of people watching this might wonder whether they should be using rewards. Did it work for your son, and how did you actually do it? Because obviously it's important to do it in the right way.
Yeah, so we started from that point. You say, like, why would we reward it? What would it create? Some kind of dependency? And first of all, we don't really give much sweets to our children, like, except for special occasions. They didn't even have sugar until they were like 3 years old. So we were quite strict about that. And then we sort of realized how painful it was for our son to come out of his comfort zone. It was a big challenge, and it caused him a lot of discomfort. So we didn't want him to associate those sessions we have and all the speaking situations with suffering or with struggle, you see, with this kind of emotion. So when chocolate came into the picture, I think he started expecting it a little bit, but then he would actually do things to get it. And that's how he convinced himself he's able to. But it had to happen at the right time. In the very beginning, we thought, okay, son, we give you a jar of chocolate if you say hello to your teacher today. That was very early days when we didn't really know. And he couldn't do it. A jar of chocolate, we said, he couldn't do it, although he would do anything because he really likes it. But then with small steps and tiny rewards, it started to work. So he started to make those efforts, and then actually it just got phased out. We don't do it anymore. It was in the beginning.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify with people watching that it doesn't work, and I think there's a bit of misconception that it's bad, because maybe people will assume that it's used to, like you said, give a big reward for a big goal. So maybe, if you talk to your teacher, if you talk at school today, we'll go on a holiday, or you'll have this big present. And that is not good. That is definitely not good, because a child can't do it and they just feel rubbish, because it's like, I really want this thing, but I can't do it, or I'm a failure. So we never want to do that. But for some children, and again, every situation is unique and different, and whenever me or any of the therapists at Confident Children are working with a family, we're always kind of asking questions to really understand whether it works with this specific child. But it's really, for some children, it's after they achieve something. It's not bribery. We're not saying if you do this, then you'll get. It's rather, you're really brave today. You played a game with your teacher. You can have this small prize. So it's like a kind of a reward after they've achieved something, and it's a small prize for a small step. And it's not for every single child, so it really depends on the specific child. But for your son, you say that it really helped him.
It did. Yes, it did. And he, at some point, we needed encouragement, because, as I said in the beginning, it's such a discomfort for them that he started asking me, why do you keep coming to my school? Why do we do it? I don't want to speak to her. I just want to be left alone. I want to be in my peace, because he found his sort of comfort zone. Everyone accepted him as a non-speaking child, so that he was there. He didn't want to move out of there, and we wanted to get him out and motivate him. So that's how it worked.
So it helped for him, sure. And another thing for viewers is, you know, there is obviously the comfort zone, there's a stretch zone, and there's the panic zone. Now, we're never taking our children into their panic zone. That's never the intention. We're rather taking them into just a stretch zone, just stretching them outside their comfort zone ever so slightly. And that is perhaps uncomfortable for any of us to go slightly outside of our comfort zone. But we're never prompting them to do anything in their panic zone, anything that's really hard. That's never ever the intention. If something is too hard, we make it easier so they can achieve whatever that small step is. We make any big steps into smaller steps. Great. So you're doing these sessions and you started to make progress talking to the teacher, is that right?
Yes, that's right. So we consolidated this for a while, and then we started focusing on other goals. So maybe introducing some children who spoke Luxembourgish language, and that worked really well. The good thing was that obviously we thought that once he speaks to his teacher, he will speak to everyone. Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But then it was much easier to introduce every next person. So when we started introducing other children, we could introduce two other friends. It just took a couple of sessions, a couple of games, and I learned as a mum how to sort of see when is a good moment for him to stretch this comfort zone a tiny bit, like Lucy says. And because I learned, because his teacher learned, it all got much quicker. So
yeah, it's such a learning process, and really kind of, with your own child, with time you will start to really like understand what works for them, and the teacher should also really understand. At the beginning you don't know, and you have to, it's always a bit of trial and error at the start.
Trial and error, definitely. This is the most important thing to be prepared for. It was a little bit like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, back. Like, okay, yesterday we achieved this progress because he was speaking with his brave voice in the presence of this child. Next time, we had to sort of start from the beginning, and maybe we didn't go that far, but then the following time he made the leap. So it required a lot of patience, and
And how did you deal with the bilingualism? Because obviously, it's Luxembourgish school, he speaks Polish with you, English with dad. How did that kind of go into the mix?
Yes, it was a bit tricky, especially in the beginning. I tried to learn that third language, which I didn't really know, mostly from my son. So one of the ideas we had was to tell him, look, Mommy really wants to learn a bit of Luxembourgish. Maybe you could teach her a bit in the classroom. So that was one aspect of it, which he understood and believed his strategy. And I had to learn a little bit because it wouldn't work otherwise. It was single words that enabled me to play games. That was not a lot, that much, just a little bit, and just a few little expressions that made my presence like natural. The teacher was naturally speaking, and I was able to get a few bits. So I had to learn. I had to make this effort. So, but not to a super complicated level. It was enough to do a little bit, and then I became redundant in the classroom during those sessions. I knew when it was time for me just to stop because they were having their conversations. I didn't understand anything. I thought, okay, I'm done here.
I'm done. My job is done. No, that's great. Okay, so it was, you had to probably do a bit more work than average because you had to actually learn some of the language. Wow.
Yes, but there was a course available we had, so it wasn't, I really had a few lessons, like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10, that gave me just a few tools to play the games, and it already worked. Already it did.
Great. But what struggles did you face with getting support for your son?
Oh, okay. First of all, as I mentioned, it was the specialist help. to have someone who really got the right strategy. Second, it was our school was really helpful in being very informal about those meetings. So I only had to get some sign a consent for the parents of the children who started joining our sessions, but the teacher was really flexible to stay after school with us, just to have those sessions even in COVID times, and we will forever be grateful to her for this. So, you know, we were lucky there. Organization wise, it might be tricky. I've heard stories of other parents who have not been so lucky, and it takes very, very long time to convince the school that this is the right thing, how it should be done, and it should not be done 10 minutes once a week. It should be done 30 minutes 3 times a week, or at least twice a week. And the more often it's done, the better. The shorter our intervention would last. So those things are real for some other parents. Sometimes parents are not even allowed in the school. They need to make the child speak to another person that can go in the school, maybe a key person at school. I don't know. That wasn't our case, luckily.
Yeah, it's really some parents really struggle with this, and it's, it really depends on the school whether, how willing and open they are to do this, because it is an unusual situation. Mm-hmm. So quite often I find that parents, when they get in touch with us, they say that actually, like, a professional who is experienced in selective mutism talking to the school is sometimes a bit more effective, because a school will listen finally sometimes, and it shouldn't be like that. They should listen. Parents have researched, but sometimes having formalizing it a little bit, having a online session or a meeting with the parents, 𝗙𝗀𝗄𝗃, the teacher, sometimes the head teacher, and the therapist, actually explaining why we're doing this and answering all of their questions often does help in those situations.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And also diagnosis, assessment opens the doors. More understanding.
They've got that official piece of paper that says this child has selective mutism, which is a special educational need. Then they can't really not do anything. They have to do something. Yeah,
that's correct. They have the duty to address this, and that's why the special needs coordinators are at schools, and we should have help from them as well.
Yeah, and it's good for us to remind parents who might be watching this video, because they might not know what their rights are. And you can absolutely book a meeting with your child's school and the 𝗙𝗀𝗄𝗃, and to say that your child is entitled to reasonable adjustment for their selective mutism, because it's a special educational need. So the school can't just treat your child like they treat other children, because your child has an additional need that they have a duty of care to help with.
Yes, and also, if they even admit this, there is a very specific strategy that helps, which is what we have experienced, which is the sliding in. It can't be something else, like waiting and to see how it goes, or proposing other alternative solutions, because there is science behind it, and this is what actually works. And everything else, it might sound a little bit harsh, but it's just a waste of time. And time is very, very important for small children. The early intervention we hear is very important. Every month, every 2 months, we struggle a lot. If we're talking about the struggle now, to reverse the habits that my son created in the school to protect himself and to stay in his comfort zone. It was so hard to make him answer yes. He was in the beginning of our games, he was able to speak in the game, etc. But during the spontaneous part of our sessions with the teacher, he was so used to saying simple thing like this. And it's because with time he trained himself to react like this.
Great. Okay. So we've discussed what has helped you help your child. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, or do you think that those are all the key points?
Well, if we're focusing about the school, that's what it is. I think as parents, we need to be conscious that there is something we need to learn, some strategies also for life outside of school.
Yes.
And we are still struggling with this. We feel that we need more strategies. We will have soon intensive session with 𝗠𝗏cy to guide us a little bit, because this is still communication with strangers is a challenge for us.
Yeah.
How to help there.
Sure. So that actually leads me on to my next question, is obviously you've done all this work with your son, and you have, really put in a lot of effort to implement this, and learned so much, and we had regular online sessions, and you were going into school and liaising with the school and the after school group and so on. So would you say that your child has overcome selective mutism, or partially, or what do you think? Where is he at on his journey?
So we changed school. Now our son is in an English speaking school, and I'd say that he has overcome maybe his fears in the school environment. I think in the current school he feels super comfortable, and he speaks to everyone he wants to, children as well as adults, and that's amazing. We never thought we would be in that place today. So
wow.
He definitely, the school is his safe place now.
Who would have thought?
I know.
So he's talking to his class teacher and the adults in his classroom. He can, answer questions.
Yes, and in the children's center, he's speaking to, I think, 3 educators now. And I when I pick him up, I see him speaking to every new child each time.
Wow.
So, because I think it is the safe place. We put in place a strategy with 𝗠𝗏cy as well on the transition to the new school. This was the right thing for us. I'm not saying anyone else needs to do it, or we felt that removing this third language would help. And it is a shame. He still got some foreign language classes in the new school, but we thought we prioritized his maybe well-being for the time being when he's so small, and other challenges we're learning, other things could come a bit later. That was our personal decision. So we felt that was right, and now he's feeling great in the school, which is an amazing success. I would say his confidence grew a lot in other areas. He takes much less time to warm up with our friends, for example, who come to the house, but it's not obvious that every time after he hasn't seen someone for a long time. It takes a bit longer. There are still areas where we have challenges speaking to unknown adults and other outside of school, like unpredictable social situations involving strangers. I think that's still a challenge, but maybe we're approaching a little bit now the situation where his fears are a bit more age appropriate and are not a real sort of like disorder, anxiety disorder, which was a bit of concern at the time. So I think maybe we could say percentage-wise, we are at 60%, maybe towards 70%, because during the holidays, it only took my son one day to speak to a friend's mum.
Right. Oh, he's doing so well.
We see the progress, and they grow up, they build this confidence, I think, but the school is the most important place because they practice those social skills.
Yes. Yes, definitely. So in the school environment, would you say he's reached his talking goals in the school? Great. So it's really the outside of school. And this is a good kind of thing to highlight for people watching this, is that, unfortunately, it usually doesn't generalize. So if a child's spoken in one situation with someone, it doesn't mean they'll speak in another situation with someone else. It doesn't automatically happen. We have to actively follow the approach, implement the strategies in the different situations. Sometimes it gets quicker because they're building confidence. When he makes progress talking at school, he's not identifying so much as the person who doesn't talk. So therefore it's easier to talk to a friend's mum, for example, because it's easier for him to talk because he's having lots of practice talking now. Yes. So it should get easier, but we still need to target those different areas and help the child in a very proactive way. So yes, we're going to be having some sessions focused specifically on talking to strangers and practicing talking with unfamiliar people, because that's still an area that he is struggling with. So we're going to be, just as we focused on school, now we're going to be focusing on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and also I just want to add that it's not finished, like it's not a given. I feel that he could regress if we stopped. I mean, not at school maybe, because there everything is set, but with people coming over, I feel that we have to always remember how to approach the situations for him, but make sure that those situations repeated. He's got constant exposure. Can't leave it like this, because I fear it might not be a good outcome then.
Sure. And another thing I wanted to add was that you did a lot of work before he went to the school, to the new school, with the transition work. And I would say, I'm not sure if you agree, but that was key to the success, the kind of preparation work.
Definitely. Yes, this transition, if anyone, is thinking about it, it was a key to our success. And we got the school on board, we trained people. Well, Lucy did online, a few sessions, and sliding in sessions with his class teacher, sliding in sessions with a special needs coordinator who's now working to slide in other teachers that intervene during their week, and it worked. Yeah. And children's center, we had sliding in sessions and introducing some friends. So it, from the beginning, very, very slowly, when it was quiet at school, we had this opportunity. And I really wish other parents would have this. But I think for us, it was extremely cooperative school, extremely good teacher who understood what the 𝗕 was. And she showed so much warmth and understanding to our son that it only took a week for him to start to speak to her.
Wow. But keep in mind, this is not just like that he met her and it took a week. It was lots of preparation stuff, training her in selective mutism. We did and by the way, of course, not everyone is going to be able to have a specialist working with them, but because there are, videos online that you can, on YouTube, there are lots of videos about selective mutism. There are school training online courses available online that you can access. There are books on selective mutism that you can, read through and give just small kind of summaries to the teacher before they meet your child. There are kind of handouts that you can have with your child. If you, of course, it's amazing if you can work with a specialist. And, personally, I can't work with all families, but we do have at Confident Children therapists who do exactly the same thing that I do. They're all trained in the same, I train them myself, and they do sessions with schools as well. So anyone watching this, there are lots of different options that you can do to support, but really the transition before, even if it's just meeting with the school before your child goes there and just telling them about your child and teaching them the do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts, and just to create that kind of non-pressured, supportive environment is a bare minimum.
Yes.
To make all the difference.
Yes, there are a few key things, and we went to the children's center with my husband, and they allowed us to come for like 10 minutes during the staff meeting, because it's hard to get the specialist, especially one of the best specialists in the world like Lucy, immediately available. So we had to sort of just do it, and we went with my husband, and we just said, look, this is our son. We showed a picture of him. He doesn't speak to strangers. Please don't ask him direct questions. And if anyone wants to volunteer to do sliding in sessions, please let us know if we could intervene. And people were extremely open to this. Yeah. We gave some handouts, as Lucy says, from the book, what not to do, what to do, some that Lucy sent us. And, it's better than nothing. Something.
Absolutely, yeah. Exactly, it's definitely better than nothing. Just talking to them, sending them some YouTube videos, or even online courses, online school training.
And I'm sure they, some of them actually researched by themselves later on because they wanted to know and become more competent as pedagogues. So.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so now that you've gone through this whole journey, what would be the key message that you would give to schools and parents who currently have a child with selective mutism?
Yes. First thing that I would say, selective mutism is a condition. It is real. You know, it is good to get an assessment diagnosis to prove it, but it cannot be ignored and cannot be just left. It exists, really. It is a condition. And that there is treatment. I'm saying this because I've met some parents of selective mutism child here in this area of Europe, where sometimes those children are just left to themselves and they need to be accepted as they are because this is what they are like. I understand my son is who he is, but I know that how different he is from home to school, and I really wanted to give him this opportunity to show how brilliant he can be. And when I saw him in school, I thought it was not the same person. He couldn't be himself. So it cannot be accepted that your child will be mute at school if he's not at home, because it takes away too many opportunities of him. So we wanted him to really take advantage of, just to live normal life almost. And there is a treatment, and it's the sliding in technique that works for us. So there is hope. There are a few things to be done, and they work. So this is for parents and teachers.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it does work. And we see children overcome selective mutism all the time, and they can be their true self and talk at school as they do at home. There is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. When we first met, you said, "Oh my gosh, my child is, he's not talking, and will he ever be able to talk?" That's a question I get in most of our sessions. Is it possible? Like, will he always be like this? And the answer is, if we actually implement the strategies in the right way, we follow the steps, and quite a lot of the time we have to really talk to the parents of the school to figure out what is the right plan for that child. But it works. And you can see he's doing so well now. So
yes, so they shouldn't be left to themselves. And when we went to the school, they said, "Oh, we know some children with selective mutism in the secondary school." And then we found, like, what? Secondary school? So what was done before? And so we said that, look, there is a therapy and we want to implement it. And, we asked for their cooperation, which was accepted. And I think they also wanted to try and to have a little bit of success story on their books. So everyone, win-win. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's quite a lot of the time, it really relies on the parents being quite proactive. You're really lucky if you've got a school where it just kind of goes along with it. But a lot of the time you have to kind of, book meetings and make a plan and kind of persuade them a little bit to actually do it. But if they do, then it works.
Yes, definitely. So and for the parents, other parents maybe, you see, this is my firstborn, and these problems surprised us as a family, but then we were motivated and we had space to deal with it. Some parents, maybe it's that they have more than one child. We now have 3 altogether, but still, it can be daunting at some point. How do we do it? And there is a lot of expectations on the parent here. So, well, we accepted it, that we had to face the challenge and learn. But on the other hand, it's not that difficult in the end. Those sessions are actually quite fun. And it was a pleasure to go in the school to see what my son does, to play those games, to discover, this other dimension between us. It was good. It was great. It didn't take that much time, only twice a week for a few months. But it was a good experience in the end, and extremely rewarding. And knowing now that it's working and he's got all those opportunities at school to learn and to develop is absolutely worth it. But it's not like it looks in the beginning like a huge mountain to climb, but when you start with small steps, it's not that bad.
No, sure. Yeah, it's actually quite a unique opportunity that parents wouldn't usually go into the child's school and during the school day. It's quite a, quite.
And creating relationship with the teacher as well. It was all, a journey. Obviously, I would wish my son wouldn't have the condition, but we learned to sort of manage it now. And also, there is a lot of stories that as children with selective mutism, they are quite special. They are very sensitive and they're beautiful. Like, I wouldn't want to change him.
Aww.
Yes, I can tell it just very, very short story.
Yeah.
Because it's really encouraging. Like, my son was invited by a friend for trick-or-treating, a friend from his school last year. He didn't speak to her yet, but she invited him to go with her. I said, all right, so let's go. Well, no expectations. He's probably not going to say a word to anyone. And he didn't. And that little girl, his friend, did the whole talking during those visits to the homes. And then they told her mom, like, wow, your daughter is so confident. Well done, My son doesn't say a word. She said, my daughter is extremely shy. And if your son was not there with her to support her, she wouldn't have done all of that.
Wow. Oh my.
Yes, I know. Those things are surprising, but yes, our children do develop some forms of communication, and in the children's world, you don't always have to speak. They get on, but obviously it gets better and deeper and more developed when they can. But still, in the beginning, it's just to say that they are amazing little human beings.
Yeah, they have kind of a magic, kind of a special kind of ingredient. They're usually very kind of sensitive and understanding, empathetic.
Yes, they sense what other children feel and they can behave. And my son, for example, he was extremely liked in his school, even though he spoke to like 2 children. But
yeah, often they are liked, even though they're not talking, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yes. So
yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. That was so nice.
Yes.
Is there any message that you'd like the world to know about selective mutism?
Selective mutism, I think, can be overcome, but it needs to be admitted it's there, and then with a correct strategy, which exists, which we discovered sliding in methods where small steps strategy, it can be overcome.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, and second message is that the parent needs to get involved. There's no other way, but it's not that bad. It's fun. It's nice to spend some more time with your child. So,
right.
This other side.
I would add there that some parents, I speak to some parents who say, we've been doing the sliding in, but it's not worked. It's not worked. And I would say in those situations, it's usually when actually, dig deeper, you're not actually doing it in the right way. So if you're trying to do it and it's not effective, maybe if you can speak to a specialist to figure out exactly why it's not working. It's sometimes a bit of investigation work to identify why it's not working, or get some books on selective mutism which outline the steps, or YouTube videos, etc. Kind of don't give up if it's not working. Just dig a bit deeper and figure out why it's not working. Yes,
we've been there. We've seen a few weeks without progress. We're asking ourselves why, and sometimes just a little tweak, just a conversation with someone who knows, who's experienced, was extremely helpful, and then we saw progress. Great.
Okay, so the last thing, do you have any message that you'd like your son to hear? Maybe he'll watch this video one day.
Yes. Well, honestly, it was, we really, really wanted the world to know how wonderful he is. And yes, because we felt that because of this anxiety, he couldn't shine. And we did just a few little things, and then he's able to.
Oh, amazing. Yes, he can now be himself and show the world who he is.
Definitely, he can read because he's a great reader. He can read in his classroom. He can make new friends who love him. So it's beautiful. So he can live normal life.
And you've done so much to help your son. Oh, he's so lucky to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a normal thing every parent would be.
Yeah, I mean, if a parent has watched this video to this point, then your child is very, very lucky to have you too, because clearly you're very invested in helping them and kind of learning. And no, that's yeah.
They are worth it. So
they are, definitely. So thank you so much, 𝗂𝗄, for joining me and sharing your story. I'm sure it was really useful for so many parents.
Yes, you're welcome anytime. I hope there'll be more success to come, and I'm happy to share.
Great. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you found it useful. Don't forget, I have lots more resources all about selective mutism. Have a look at this YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and have a look at the Facebook page, Confident Children Selective Mutism Therapy, because I regularly share lots of different things about selective mutism, pictures of my cat, you know, you'll find a lot there. And also subscribe to the newsletter on the website, 𝗕confidentchildren.co.uk, because we share newsletters which contain information about events, workshops we might be running for parents, Q&A sessions, etc., etc. So thank you so much for being here again, and wishing you all a lovely day.